have is to go ahead and introduce Dale Laitinen. Um, Dale said that drawing and painting has been a lifelong pursuit. He calls it chasing shadows to find the light. As a young child, he was always an artist, drawing before he could read. I wish I could say that. Dale's first put his brush to canvas in the 1960s and has continued to um, the present. After graduating from San Jose State University in 1975 with a degree in fine arts, he began full-time painting in the 1980s. He sells his artwork in galleries and in California and teaches workshops across the country. And just a personal note, I was just talking to Dale about this before everybody came on. My whole interest in learning how to paint watercolor came from Dale 20 years ago when I didn't even know I wanted to do watercolor or even wanted to paint. But I had seen about 5 or 6 of Dale's full-size canvases at the Hilton in Lake Tahoe, North Lake Tahoe. And I was so enthralled with those paintings. I went down every day that we were there and looked at them. They were all over the lobby, and I took several pictures of them. And when I started painting, I said to myself, I said, I think I've got some paintings of somebody that was really inspiring to me. And I continue to go back to them as references and inspiration. So we're really excited to have Dale here with us, and I'm also excited to have him doing a workshop with us. And so Dale, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be with you, even though I'm 1,000 miles away in New Mexico. But Zoom makes it a little more intimate that way. So happy to be with you, and thank you for such an enthusiastic response to the workshop and to Joe's comments about me inspiring you to paint, which is always gratifying to me. I never, really realized that people do that, they find my paintings and get excited about them. So once I paint them, they go out there in the world and they do their own thing, I guess.
Yeah,
So
they have a life of their own.
Yeah, they have a life of their own. I just let them graduate into the nether, I guess. So I was wondering, I had a suggestion. Instead of going international, you should go intergalactic now that we're out in space. That would be a much better, you'd be the first. That's a
I
first for
like
you.
that. Yeah, I like that. That's a great idea. We'll have to have a vote about that.
Yeah, put it up on the screen right away. So anyway, I've been painting a lot of desert scenes lately because I'm living in Mesa country. I look out my window in the morning and I have this beautiful mesa staring me in the face. So it's really wonderful. But I also have been painting the coast quite a bit. I have a gallery in Cambria, the Bronze, Silver, and Gold gallery that handles my work. So I've been sending seascapes there. Also, I'm also paint the Sierra Nevada, which I haven't been painting as much lately, but I probably painted more granite mountains than I care to remember. But that was always my go-to favorite subject in years past. But I like to be breaking out in different directions. Tonight, I'm going to do a view from my sketch, looking down into a beach area on Big Sur. It's one of my favorite ways to look at the landscape or seascape is to look down into it. So it's a different perspective, standing on the edge of something, looking down below. So that's what I'm going to attempt today is that. So I'll be working on 300-pound paper, arches, rough, and what I've done already, why don't I just switch over to my painting and we can get started that way. So let me do that. So there we go. Okay, so this is a sketch that I emailed to Joe earlier today, and it's looking down onto the the subject. Let's see if I can get it up closer here. So in the very beginning here, when I sketched this in, I started at the very pinpoint left corner and brought it down almost to the center here, so that that cliff would be right in my face. So that to go beyond that, I have to look down onto the beach. So that's one way to start those kinds of things, is to think about how close that subject would be to you and how there wouldn't be any foreground. So that's the approach I took with this particular painting. Now I've got it sketched out here, and I already did a quick underpainting, a wet to wet underpainting. And the reason I did that beforehand is this 300 pounds stays wet a long time, and we would be watching paint dry half the night. So what I did is put a light wash on this painting for my lightest lights, and it establishes my underpainting, in other words. And you probably still see the drawing through there, but I'm going to redraw it a little bit for you so you can get an idea where I'm going with this before I start putting any more color on. Once I have this wet into wet wash, which has yellow ochre as one of my basic light tones to this, it's some cobalt blue, a little bit of queen gold and cobalt here on the left where my hand is. The sky is a combination of yellow ochre, cobalt blue, and a little bit of neutral tint. I use mostly Daniel Smith, but on the neutral tint, I use Holbein because it's a little cooler and a little more to my taste. Both brands are fine, but I just prefer the little cooler bluish tint of the neutral tint. So I just let it kind of merge together with the yellow ochre there. And then
Dale,
yes.
I did put the sketch in the chat, so everybody, if
okay.
you want to get the
So you've got an idea what's going on then. So I'm going to go ahead and just redraw this a little bit here so that you can see the schematic for my painting here. So I've got this headland, like you see in the sketch, established in the background with a horizon line that is even with the headland, just about this, maybe a little higher than the tip of the headland there. And then I've created a long passage here of breakers in the distance, and this is all beach area in here. And then I brought down a line this way and this way to indicate cliffs coming down to the beach, and then a subsequent line here for the next layer coming down. So, you know, as you're looking at the seascape, you're going to get these layered looks to each layer, almost like a painting from Japanese watercolor or Chinese watercolor, where you have these atmospheric effects taking place, especially on a scene like on the California coast where there's a lot of moisture. You'll see the tones get grayer and softer as they go into the distance. But as we come closer, these hillsides will be a lot warmer, a little bit more detail, a little more color to them. So you can see where I start in the corner here, and I work down really quickly here and take this angle all the way down and bring it right down to the bottom of the picture plane. So within this unit, there's sub shapes that are smaller and attend to that bigger shape that comes down here. So then I have a lower bluff coming in through here like this, and this, and this, and this. And I brought in a river coming in from the hills, across the beach and out into the ocean. And one of my pivot points here is this big rock shape that's up midway up in the picture. It comes across like that, and then there's a surf line that comes in here and is pushing in toward the beach and surrounds the big promontory here, exposed rock, and then another rock out here that comes around like this and like this and like this and like that. So what I do is extend my composition to the edge. I touch my picture plane. My composition to the picture plane here, and touching it here, touching it here. So that's how I spread out the design to the whole paper. And in theory, no matter how big your painting is or how small it is, you're still going to use the same concepts for design and composition. So what I'm working on is a 22 by 30 inch painting. So I've got a lot of acreage to cover before the night's over. So I hope I can get this done before I have to go to bed. So let's see what happens there. Here on the beach, you're looking down. It's like looking down on almost like looking down on my drafting table, but I'm looking down on the beach. So it's a flat table land that all these cliffs and rocks and everything sit on. So it's like I'm placing objects on the table. And that's how I imagine this landscape to be, is a kind of a table with these shapes as objects interspersed on there. So what I look for is lead-ins here. So along this beach, this leads into the major shape of this rock here. This here kind of cuts into the composition, and this cuts this way. So it kind of formalizes the design right into this area here. So those are the things I think about. And I like to call my workshops, I start with the heading shape-shifting and shape-shifting the coast or desert or whatever, because I'm really thinking about that second element, of design, line, shape, contrast, color, and texture. So I'm thinking a lot about shape at this point in my painting. So now that I've got painting dry, I've got a sketch on here that I can work with, I'm going to go ahead and start painting. So the brushes I use is this 3-inch, I think this is a Skyflow, and then Robert Simmons, and then I have an 1.5-inch muslin, and that's a Van Hasselt brush, and then a Winsor & Newton inch brush, and I have a 2-inch Winsor & Newton 965 as well, and a worn out old number 8 round here, sable, and number 3 round synthetic brush. So those are the main brushes that I use to do it. So I'll start by getting my brush nice and wet and getting some water in my little hands here. I use the Elder John palettes. I have my tones on one palette, then my warm to cools on another palette. So I start with Nicolazzo, and then I have I can't remember what that color is. This one is Quin Red, Cobalt Blue, French Ultramarine, Cerulean Blue, and then I have Phthalo Blue Green shade, and Yellow Ochre on this palette, and then Quinacridone Gold, and then I have I think that's Quin Burnt Sienna, Quin Burnt Orange, and my neutral tan. These Elder John palettes. So I like these because they fit right into my easel, my French easel, so it's easy to transport. So I'll start with my 2-inch brush and dip into my cobalt blue here. And I'll start with the headland back here and add this cobalt blue to the shape of the headland with my 2-inch brush. And just get that shape blocked in. And also this outline rock in the headland there, outside of the headland there. So I'm going to also now take a little bit of my neutral tint And I'm gonna gray down the cobalt blue a little bit with the Holbein neutral tint. And that'll gray down that cobalt blue so that it brings it a little farther into the distance. So it may seem like it's really dark right now, but as it settles into the paper and as I get the other areas of the painting a little darker, it should be fine. So it's what you put next to something that relates to the value you put down. Now I'm taking a little quin burnt orange and warming up the areas of that headland with the quin burnt orange right into the cobalt blue and the neutral tint. Well, one thing I can do sometimes, and I'll do it on this one too, is I'll take and put another wash of, I'll take neutral tint and I'll wash it into the sky here like this. And then tilt the board a little bit and mist it a little bit and let it run down into the headland here. So now I'm going to just clear out a small brush and blend this together like this until it kind of softens this edge. It'll give it kind of a distant, misty quality to the sky there. And I might even add a little bit of cobalt blue back into the sky there too. And I'm going to just leave the warm sky peeking through underneath the layer. So while these edges are still wet, I'm going to ground this headland into the beach area. So I'll take, I don't want to use that small brush this early in the parade. So I'll use my number 8 and I'll just come along here and just soften that edge, lower edge, so it looks like it's falling into the beach a little bit there and anchoring itself to the beach. I'm going to use my yellow ochre to wash into this open beach area. Now just let that neutral tint and whatever other color that headland kind of bleed into that beach area. Just like that. Now, one thing I can do with a number 3 at this stage, number 3 brush is give ourselves a little space division between the headland and the beach here with it. Just dab into mostly pigment, very little water on my brush, and just paint along this edge here to kind of subdivide the beach from the landscape. Might even dip into my burnt orange and run that in. And then somewhere along the way, just use put a few line works in here to start to describe the shape of the headland coming down like this. And those are markers for later work, so it reminds me that I want to put a shadow plane on that rocks, and it helps with texture and detail also.
Dale, there's a question about what angle your board is at.
It's almost flat, but I use a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser box as my tilt up. So it's just that much higher than the tabletop.
Thank you.
When I first put on the wash, I use it completely flat so that I don't get a wash back on my edges. So when I put my first washes down, I start completely flat. Then I tilt it just slightly. I use a lot of wet washes, so I don't usually paint much more vertically than that.
And what's the paper that you're using? You said it was 300 pound?
Yeah, 300-pound Arches rough.
Thank you.
Now I'm adding some cobalt blue to the surf line here and to the ocean coming in. Also, I need to use a little French ultramarine in here as well at this point. And I think I'm going to dip into my little bit of my phthalo blue-green shade. A little more greeny tone to my water body here. Wash that in. And a little bit of burnt orange in there. And wash that in.
There's another question about what is the brush that you're using?
This is a Van Hazel brush. It's 1.5 inches, I think. Yeah, 1.5 inch Van Hazel. You can buy them over at Cheap Joe's. It's a muslin, so it's a really nice brush. This is one of my favorite brushes to use. It has very thick bristles to it, so it holds a lot of water and things like that. So
Is it natural hair or synthetic?
it's muslin. So that's I guess that's natural hair.
Okay. And the name once again?
It's a Van Hazel brush.
Van Hazel. Thank you.
Yeah, that was an artist. I don't know if he's still painting, but he had books out years ago. VAN and then Hazel, HASSELT brush. HASSELT. And he's AWS. I guess it stands for off shucks. Yeah, he had books out way back in the 70s, I recall. That's how long I've been painting since forever. I'm trying to get in a little bit of burnt orange into that blue so it's not so harsh. The burnt orange will neutralize some of the real harshness of the blue tones. So you can see how I'm doing shape and shape and shape. So I'm not working details at all yet too much, just hints at them in places. We might as well continue on down here with the water body. My favorite part of painting the seascape is actually the landscape and how it interacts with the body of water and how the two affect each other. That's where I get my shapes, my interesting shapes. I've painted pounding surf before, but it's not exactly my favorite subject. The subject I like about the ocean is the big massive cliffs, like in Big Sur, and the big rocks and stones coming down. So I leave these little gaps of light color to indicate surf line and other things for subsequent washes. So that's why you've got some of these happening.
Dale, do you have a reference photo that you're painting from or just your sketch?
I guess the sketch. It's a imaginary sketch or remembered imagery, whatever you want to say.
Wonderful.
I just like I'm standing at the beach. I've stood at a lot of beaches. So.
I'd love to be there.
Yeah, that's why I paint them, because they're places I always want to go to. So Yeah, there we have that river coming out from between the rock, between the cliffs here. Between some ridge lines there. And put a little mud into that a little bit, neutralize that so it's not so one note blue. Okay. Why don't I just go ahead and block this shape in here as a foreground rock shape that's peeking in from some larger form coming down through here like this. And that kind of gives me my composition, this line, these lines here, focus the eye into this part of the painting. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So again, I'll start with a blue here. I'm using ultramarine, French ultramarine, blocking in that shape just with big wide brush. So I like to think of each shape as a mini wet and wet. So that's why I work wet on dry. So I've got the kind of the basis for this shape now. And now I'll add sunburnt orange to this to warm it up since it's in the foreground here. I put the cobalt blue in first so that it doesn't become too warm, too harsh, and jump right in our face. So in a way, it neutralizes the warm colors a little bit, makes them less harsh. Throw a little bit of twin gold in there along with the twin burned orange. And I think I'll put a little bit of twin sienna also in there. It's a real burnt sienna. It's a nice touch. I used to use the regular burnt sienna, the mineral, but once the quinacridone colors came out, that seemed to be more suitable to me more because they're fresher, they're more transparent, they're brighter. Not as much of a chance to get mud. So I'm just charging the rock with different colors and leaving it a little brighter towards the top, a little more neutral down here in some of the lower areas. Just kind of darken that corner, neutralize it so it's not so strong. That's pretty dry. I'm going to go back up and start working my big broad shapes up to this way. So I've got 1, 2, 3 different ridge lines there, but I'm going to start by making them all one first, and then work as they dry, and work them separately. Wash on top of wash. So this is just mainly neutral tint here. That's just my base. Not really a color, but my base color here. You can call it. It's all one shape right now, which it won't hopefully be when I'm done. And I put a little cobalt blue in there, just to get it away from being completely gray. some Quinn Gold and clean it up a little bit. I just want these to be fairly neutral back here. You know, farther back, way back in the distance here. So you see what happens here is as I darken this headland here drops away into the background a little bit more. See, it's been bluer, it's a little hazier. I've started to add some warms with the Quinn burnt orange and a little bit of Quinn gold here to mix in here. And I think I'm gonna put some violet and some purple in this just because I'm old and crazy. These Mr. Clean Magic Eraser originals are really handy for lifting and also for cleaning your palette. So they have good uses in watercolor. So I'm mixing the cobalt blue with the Quinn gold, Quinn red, Quinn Orchidin red. I'm just going to put a little bit in here. Wash it in with all the grays. You know, I do use photographs from time to time to paint with, but I think I have more fun when I don't use photographs. I don't feel like I'm answering to a higher authority when I have a photograph. So, I wanted to extend the water pattern beyond that rock a little bit in the background. That's why I'm putting this cobalt blue right in there. Something like that. So you can see I'm still at work on the big shape. I really haven't gotten into any real layering or detail yet. So that'll come hopefully. That's too small of a brush. You go to my Van Hazel. I like that brush the best. And it's a kind of a grade down Quinn gold. Probably has mixtures of cobalt blue or neutral tint in it. Pulling down shape, the hillside shape here. Moving it down this way like this. So you can see I'm using the diagonal on my work quite a bit, especially on these hillsides and these cliff sides. So diagonals, they push your eye somewhat. They're pulling me down, especially this one, it starts right in the corner, which is pretty severe, and it's going all the way down here to the bottom. So that creates activity, kinetic activity, it moves your eyes somewhat. Same here, so we're moving into the design this way. And the other two aspects of that are horizontals, which you have sense of distance, horizon, peacefulness, stability. So you get a little bit of that in my painting here on the horizon. So I really at this stage, I don't think too much. I know what I'm painting, it's seascape, it cliffs, but I'm thinking abstract. I'm thinking about the shapes. That's more interesting to me than thinking about if this is a rock or that's a tree or that's a wave or whatever. So that's why I have more fun when I can create shapes on my own rather than, like I said, answer to the photograph. There are times when I would use a photograph, especially when I want to make a specific subject, but usually they're my own photographs and they're somehow compositionally something interesting to me. It's all the way down like this. That's some violet and some purple. So you can see this is getting really warm here compared to this, compared to that. So it really kind of starts to pull into our design. Even some isolated shapes here, I don't know what they're going to become yet. They might disappear. Um, Painting uh, take on its own here a little bit. So uh, sometimes it has its own idea. Some orange in there. The reason I can use a wide brush in my little Elder John palettes is I have multiple colors in each little cavity there, each little area, so I can get more color on from the brush that way. I'm just going between warm and cool, warm and cool. At some places I want it warmer and cooler. It's pretty warm. Maybe I'll add a little cobalt blue in this corner a little bit. Okay. All right, let's leave that alone. It's all full of puddles and wet, and those have to settle in and dry before I can start coming in with my next 5 shapes. But what I can do is work on this beach. And this thing I call my tabletop. Beach comes out to the ocean here, all the way up to the cliffs. So the beach I want to keep pretty light compared to the rest of the scene, so that we have the sun glistening off the sand. And I'm thinking about, I actually do have a plan for light and shadow. My light's coming in from the ocean area, and so my shadow sides are going to be on the left-hand side of some of these shades. Just using neutral tint to gray down the yellow for a little bit, so it's not quite so polished. And we'll carry that off here onto the other side. Okay, so that's going to settle in there. There's a little smaller brush here to get in between the rock and the hard place here. A little beach shining through in the background. You know, leave that even brighter, so it's like it pulls the eye in. This beach going to continue on. So it's kind of a long beach all the way up through the whole painting. Just check into where things are dry and where things are wet. So I'll let that the beach settle in there. And then I'm going to find a blue paddle and introduce the shadow side for the cliffs on this headland. Once I get all these puddles, I don't have to do as many color mixes because I've already got all these puddles going on the John palettes. And you cast shadow. Just little accents along this edge for it's a little bit damp, but I think I can get away with my next layers on that. I like to really have it solidly dry. Feels just a little bit damp, but I'm gonna go ahead and start working on it. I'm gonna go back to my phthalo green, no, phthalo blue green shade. And start working some of the patterns of the next value into the as we get into the distance there, I want to soften that horizon so we don't have a real hard edge. Sometimes when you're sitting on the ocean, you look at it, and it's always this real strong definition between the cool of the water, the dark of the water, and the light of the sky. And it always looks too sharp for a painting. So I always try to make sure that it stays light enough that it just kind of fades into the sky. It doesn't get too obnoxious. Pretty bright blue, so I'm going to take, like I did before, take a little bit of sunburnt orange and just bring it in there. That actually greens it up quite nicely. There's so many different colors in the water. It's not just blue, it usually has green, it has sometimes a violet, and it's deep violets in the water. So, you know, might use a little bit of French ultramarine and quin red here. Now that quin red, it kind of takes over, so I have to be careful not to use too much because it tends to make too much of the red violet. So there we're at. So we've got violet, we've got green, we've got blue, we've got a variety of color built into that ocean water there. closer in here, we're gonna get a little more earth tones, warm tones in the water because we're looking down into a shallow shelf of sand and surf here. So I'm putting a little bit of yellow ochre into this gray violet wash here. I'm just trying to manipulate these edges of this water to make the surf line work with the blue of the water here. Trying to keep our lead in to the big rock, so that's what I'm doing. Getting wet, so if I try to paint it in that rock shape right now, it's gonna, the phthalo blue is gonna bleed into that, so I don't want to do that. So I want to get to that thing. That's mostly the burnt orange and neutral tint together. Get a warm gray out of it, warmish gray. Let's throw a little bit of cobalt blue into that. It's not quite so dead. Make a real shocking value transition, so pull this into this, makes this seem brighter in comparison to that. Must dry there. Get them down. I'm gonna mute you guys for a second here so I can use the hair dryer. See if I can find a spot to mute you. Oops.
Great.
Where'd you go?
What are you looking for?
Okay, I'm back.
Thank you.
The idea here is to start deepening the values of this wash so that it brings the ridge line out. I try to stay within the same color reference as the underpainting. So I'm using cobalt blue and clean burnt orange, and I can even throw in a little violet in there if I'd like. Yeah, it's pretty cool that wash. So I'm going to add some twin gold into the one that a little bit, which should soften into the violet there.
Dale, are the palettes you're using the Edgen palettes?
Elder John, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're cheap palettes, but when I started painting with my first watercolor instructors, Dan Peterson and Eric Obach, that's what they had on the materials list. So I've always found them workable for me, so I keep with them. So okay, so I've got that shape coming down nicely. And I can start making some of my smaller shapes now that this wash is dried. Come down here like this. So I'm thinking about light coming from this way. So some of these crevices will be darker along the left-hand edges. That's where we start to see the cliffs start to come to fruition. Otherwise, they're just big blobs, big shapes. Okay, now it's dry enough. I can go to that thing that I've been waiting all night for. In the spot out here. We'll start with a really light wash of cobalt blue. And wash in a little burnt orange. This first value here over the whole area. So I'm adding neutral tint to this. I've got cobalt blue, twin burnt orange, and now some neutral tint in there to calm it down a little bit. Add a little more neutral. So I'm just kind of going back and forth trying to figure out just the right combination here. Warm, cool, and neutral. So what's going to happen is this is going to dry. Then I'm going to put the shadow plane and a few cracks and crevices in there for detail. And in the meantime, I can go work on this one here. And just get some, mostly a puddle of neutral tint. line. Yeah.
Dale, there's a question about how do your washes stay so vibrant and full of color after applying multiple layers?
Well, I try, like I was saying earlier, what I do is I harmonize with the wash that I put on. So here I used a blue underpainting. Here I'm doing a blue green with touches of warm in it. So they harmonize. If I used a green over a red over green over a red, what would happen? I'd get mud, right? Some places I want it a little muddy or a little more neutral. So here I'm mixing warm and cools together, get a little bit more of that with certain accents of color, one kind or another. So that's the secret is you can't use warm and cool opposites or opposites on the color wheel on each other without getting too muddy. You can break that rule sometimes, but it's a pretty hard and fast thing that if you use red and green together or orange and cobalt blue over and over and over again together, they're going to mud up, same as yellow and violet. That's a dangerous one. That will mud up really easy. So that's the basic answer I have. And then also waiting till the underpainting is dry. If you don't do that, you get into trouble too. And let's give that a cast shadow, settle it down onto the beach here and the permafrost. I'll do the same here. Just lock this rock shape right into the edge of the cliff like this. That anchors it to this shape, and then we'll anchor it to that shape eventually.
Another question is, are any of your colors granulating?
I don't think so. Unless you want to consider French ultramarine granular. I don't know. Most of my twin colors, yellow ochre isn't too granular. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go back over here and start working some of these shapes over here. So these blobs will turn into something.
Dale, just to give you a time check, we're at 8:30.
8:30? Oh, okay. What time do I have to
9
finish?
o'clock. 9 o'clock. And
Okay.
if you want to go longer, I'm sure some of us will hang out.
Okay, we'll see what happens here.
Okay.
Still messes me up living in New Mexico. It's a different. We live in the past. You're in the future.
I I saw you. So you're just outside of Albuquerque, is that right?
Yeah, Placitas is between Santa Fe and Albuquerque. It's I don't know, just a kind of a rural bedroom community of a lot of flat roofed pueblo style houses. Really an artist community here. It's really
Oh.
cool.
And what elevation are you at?
I'm at about 56, 5,800, something like that.
Well, that's awesome.
It's very mild climate so far. Really nice. It was at 3,800 in Sierra, but we got a lot of snow and fire. So I'm out of here.
When did you move? I remember you were in California for a long time.
Yeah, Plymouth.
Yeah, I never thought I'd leave California, but once my house burned down and I had a couple other evacuations, I said, time to go. And I've always loved New Mexico. And my friend Sabina Turner, who's an artist who lived in Amador County, said, why don't you come look up here? But I fell in love with Placitas. A lot of artists and physicists and composers and stuff live up here. If you ever want to move from California, you don't want to live here. Like my DMV for my car was $250 a year in California. Here it's $50 a year. That I was a surprise. I just moved here because I like New Mexico and wanted to move, but that was a plus. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
So all these patterns that I'm laying in here are just things to describe the contours of the landscape. And then I'm also adding these dark shapes with trees and shrubs along the surface of the along the cliffs. So it takes a little bit of patience to wait till things are dry. That's one of the big things is to, in order to get nice definitive edges to your shapes, good thing to make sure that the underlaying washes are dry. And that's when you start to get these nice definite shapes. Another benefit of living in New Mexico is we don't have power failures every other week either. So that's a good thing. I never thought I'd leave California. It's such a beautiful place. So is New Mexico.
Well, that part of New Mexico is certainly
Yeah,
certainly is gorgeous.
yeah.
Dale, I noticed that you so far don't worry very much about soft edges, other than your soft edges come from putting more color into your washes. Is
Yes,
that
you
something
know,
you?
well, here's a soft edge here, and then if you keep your values close together, you don't necessarily have to, soften the edge. But sometimes what I'll do is later come in and put a covering glaze over a whole area and it softens that, or use the brush to wet it down, soften it that way. So, you know, right now these shapes here are the trees falling along the ridge lines, bending down. That's good.
Do you have any artists that influenced your work, Dale?
Well, I have artists that in art history that and contemporary artists that I appreciated. Not always necessarily watercolor artists, but artists in general. Probably my favorite artist of the Western landscape probably be Maynard Dixon, who was actually lived in San Francisco most of his life. Born in Fresno, lived on a ranch. He was very famous. I like looking at Wayne Thiebaud's work. He's an influence. Dan Peterson, who's now passed away from Yesler Junior College, is my instructor. He was a big influence. Eric Oback from San Jose State, where I studied, was a big influence. Did I mention Edward Hopper? I love his work.
Okay.
The little dots are little bushes on the side of the hill with cast shadows. If you're wondering what these are, you, I can go back to that. Usually I spend a lot more time stopping and critiquing myself than I do when I'm in a demo. So I'll put the painting up next to my TV and watch Big Bang Theory or something. Some sitcom of some sort. That's where I let the painting talk to me the most, is when I spend time with it away from the garage. So the reason I'm saying that now is because I'm kind of getting to a stage where I'm putting in the finishing details and things like that. So it takes me a bit to analyze these kind of shapes sometimes.
Dale, do you have any upcoming workshops in New Mexico?
No, I don't. I just closed on my house in February, so I've been busy catching up on my painting and getting my house in shape and stuff like that. But I'd love to do uh, get a list of people who'd be interested in coming to New Mexico to do a workshop. And I've done workshops for the New Mexico Watercolor Society, a couple of them. We judged the Western Fed show here, and also the New Mexico Watercolor Society show. So I do participate, but right now I don't have any of my own going yet. But I would like that to happen.
You have a newsletter?
Not right now. I was using Constant Contact, but I kind of got away from it because it got too complicated. So we need to start something up again.
Well, go ahead and let us know when you have one, and
Yeah.
we'll get the word out for you.
Yeah, I kind of got off of social media quite a bit. So Once I get settled more, I can get back into it.
Well, as I mentioned, we probably have one of the biggest wait lists that we've had in a while for your workshop and for Michael Reardon. So we'll have to
Yeah,
get
it's
you.
kind of funny since I didn't even publicize it much, really.
Yeah, yeah,
You have good publicity, I guess.
yeah. We'll definitely have to do it again.
Yeah. I'm glad we can go back to doing live stuff. It was hard, it was a difficult thing sometimes to do a whole workshop in Zoom, but it got us through.
It did, and we have a pretty big following of people who are still anxious for us to do Zoom workshops. And in fact, I know there's several in with us today online here, and
Yeah,
we're trying to do both. We I like doing hosting the Zoom workshops, and like I said, we have quite a few people that really enjoy them.
yeah, I kind of like the personal touch of live ones too, though. That's what I kind of missed during the COVID bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interactive stuff. And I'm just putting another layer of a little bit of yellow ochre on this beach just to show the patterns of of the, of the beach where the water kind of comes up along the beach and you see as the tide goes out and things like that. Also, it helps level out the beach a little bit and tells us a little story about what it is, what the shape is. You know, I'm thinking I want to make this water here dark, but I don't like it sitting there so light, so I'm gonna make it a darker blue green. Carry it out to the water. Fade it out to the water. Maybe I'll drop a little silver and blue and a little more opaque. It bounces the light back out a little bit. So then,
A lot of great feedback coming in.
pardon?
There's a lot of great feedback coming in about the work
Oh,
your demo.
Oh, that's nice to hear. You know, doing these, that's another thing with the Zoom. I really don't get a lot of instant feedback like with live and let me look at it on the computer, see what's. Yeah, it's I think it's a little choppy in here and probably does need a little softening in places. So I might just use a moister brush and kind of soften some of these edges. And I do that just with a brush and barely hit it, soften some of these edges so they're not so harsh. We have about 5 minutes.
Yes, we do. Sally said, thank you very much, Dale, for demonstrating your beautiful technique. I love your colors and how you mix them on the paper. It's beautiful.
Yeah, mixing on a paper, that's another good thing about keeping your washes fresh. Mingle the colors on your shapes on the dry paper, on the paper. So on the dry underpainting, make a wet shape, whatever shape you need, and then mingle the colors right on the paper instead of pre-mixing. I think you get a better, more fresher, more spontaneous color mix.
Zelda K says she loves the colors on the painting. Rayanne Williams said, wonderful demo.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It was fun. Yeah. It was one of my favorite subjects, looking down into the coastal areas of the Big Sur. And it's rare to see it this sunny there too. So, anyway. Yeah, I've got to still work on just adjusting the foliage in the right places, creating some more cast shadows that helps connect things together. Like here, I use the cast shadow to connect to the cliff and so forth and so on. So other than, those things, I think for an hour and a half, I did pretty good. So
yeah. So Dale, will you continue working on this painting?
probably because it's fresh and nice and mostly complete, but there are things that feels like it needs to be knotted together, tied together a little bit in places. That's all. So,
well, if you continue
here, see, and there's no real other dark values in other places yet. So things like that, I just adjust.
Yeah.
So
well, if you continue to work on it and send us a screenshot, I'll
send you a finished product. How's that?
Great. I'll include it in the video.
Okay. All right. So.
Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? A lot of more comments coming in. Looks amazing. Thank you, Dale. You make it look so easy and fun.
It was fun. Yeah. Watercolor is really fun medium. So,
would you say, Dale, that
it's spontaneous? It's very interactive compared to some mediums. So that's what I like about it.
Would you say that probably 90% of your painting is done with a brush 2 inches or wider?
Well, yeah, a lot of it is 2 inches or wider. Once in a while, I'll drop down to a round for certain specific details, but I just like to build up wash upon wash upon wash, and I can always do some of the detail work just with the, with the corner, corner or edge brush like that, like that. I don't always have to go to the small brush. So
I think that's what one of the things that makes your painting so compelling, and also just makes it look so loose and fresh, is those large brush strokes.
yeah, it's that, and not overdo it. That's why I say I like to stop at a certain point and go, okay, if I keep working on this, I might just, drop it to death, run it down the tube. So if I stop, set it aside, watch Big Bang Theory, look at the painting, maybe then I can come back to it or something. So
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, Dale. We really appreciate it.
Hey.
Looking forward to seeing you out here, and I will get to some more details to you about flights and stuff.
okay, well, I'll be driving, so you don't have to talk about
Oh, that's right.
flight.
You told me that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll need to go over that in terms of your reimbursements. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us this evening. Again, thank you, everybody who has volunteered. We've got quite a few people that have volunteered. I did post a list of the dates and the positions we're looking for in the chat if you want to download that. And as I mentioned, we'll be sending out some more information with more details about volunteering for the International Exposition. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dale. And everybody have a
Good night.
evening. Good night now.